Welcome to the Eternal format, the unofficial format where every set is legal from the original base set to the most recent set, with a ban list to keep things balanced. To learn more about the Eternal format, check the links in the description. The first list we're going to be looking at from today's game is Kyogre Groudon LEGEND Mill. It is a deck that wants to build a huge combo, but it takes quite a long time to build it. The first pieces of the combo are Kyogre Groudon Legend, which have the Mega Tidal Wave attack, which costs 4 energies, 2 water and 2 colorless, and discards the top 5 cards of the opponent's deck. It also has an additional effect. It does some damage to the bench Pokemon for each energy you discarded, but it is not the point of this deck. So we want to put the legend into play and to attach 4 water energies to it. And to attach them, we use Frosmoth. Frosmoth has the Ice Dance ability, which says as often as you like during your turn, you may attach a water energy from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon that is water type. And the legend has the water type, lucky for us. More than that, it also has the fighting type. So we can also attach a Focus Sash to it, which is a tool that essentially allows it to not get one-shot, which is quite convenient because all in all this is a 150 HP Pokemon that gives up 2 prizes, so not ideal. Even if it does get knocked out, we also have Floatzel GL Level.X that has a Pokebody, which says whenever one of your water-type Pokemon, excluding any Floatzel GL, is knocked out by damage from an attack, instead of discarding it, you return it and all cards attached to it to your hand. So, let's say our legend gets knocked out, we return everything to our hand, we promote Floatzel because, among other things, it has a free retreat. Then we bench the legend again, attach all those energies again with Frosmoth, attach the Focus Sash, retreat Floatzel, and we're ready to start milling again. Now, you will notice that was a lot of pieces. The 2 legend pieces, 4 energies, Frosmoth, and Floatzel GL Level.X. So most of the game we're actually going to spend trying to build this combo, and we have 2 main tools to do that. One is Jirachi and another is Twins. Twins is the easier one to explain. It's a supporter card that can only be played if you're behind on prize cards, but it allows you to get whatever 2 cards you want out of your deck. And Jirachi is a Pokemon that has the Final Wish Poke Power. When during your opponent's turn Jirachi gets knocked out by damage from an attack, you may search your deck for any card you want and put it into your hand. Then it has the Detour attack, which costs 0 energy and allows you to reuse the effect of the supporter card you played during his turn. And finally, cherry on top, it also has a free retreat, so very good Pokemon to set up. Before moving on to the other list from today's game, I wanted to mention Floatzel Galvantula, which is a list built by iFly, because it showcases that Floatzel GL Level.X is actually a very strong card. My deck does not really showcase that since it's a bit of a fun deck and not really a good deck, but this one is a really good deck. The premise of this deck is that Galvantula has the Unnerve ability, which prevents all effects of item and supporter cards from your opponent to Galvantula. So you attach a life due to Galvantula, and your opponent cannot remove it with either Field Blower or Faba. Then Galvantula's attack does damage and recovers any card from your discard pile to your hand. And again, you return Galvantula and the life due and the energy to your hand when it gets knocked out, because you give it the water type with Vaporeon, which has an ability that makes all of your stage 1 Pokemon water. The other list from today's game is Galarian Perrserker V. Perrserker has the Treasure Rush attack, which does 20 damage times the number of cards in our hand, so we want to build a massive hand and keep it to swing for big numbers. The Dunsparce allows us to do that because it has the Runaway Draw ability, which once during your turn allows you to draw 3 cards and then you shuffle that Pokemon back into your deck. We also have Radiant Greninja, which allows us to discard an energy card from our hand to draw 2 cards. And we have plenty of supporters that draw us 3 cards. The most notable, I think, is Avery, which also disrupts our opponent by forcing them to discard their bench Pokemon until they have only 3 left. Now, to keep our hand from getting disrupted by our opponent, we have Milotic, which has the Dewguard ability, which prevents all effects of our opponent's supporter cards done to us and to our hand. So, no IO, no Noen, no Rocket Sunmin, no Hue can reduce our hand size. Finally, to address one of the big downsides of Galarian Perrserker, which is its relative low HP compared to other 2 prizes, we have Bravery Charm and the VA-Spec Heroescape to boost its HP a bit. This list was actually adapted from a PTCG expanded list that was built by Hazeman. You can find his video linked in the description. I made a few changes to his list. Most of them were obvious Eternal improvements, namely the inclusion of the special Metal Energy, Luxury Ball, and the change from Feebas with the Submerge ability to Feebas with the Submerge Pokebody, since most sniping decks will be more likely to have ways to shut down abilities. Then, other than that, I chose to replace the 4 Battle VIP passes, and I replaced them with 1 Faba, which I think is needed in this format, and 3 Pokemon Collector. Moving on now to the game. This was a game I played against myself, so I'm gonna use the first person from both perspectives. With the Perrserker, I started Manaphy, which is a bit of an unfortunate start, but not the end of the world. Whereas with the Legend Mill, I started with Jirachi, which is absolutely the best starter possible. I went first with the Perrserker, and the first thing I do is attach Capture Energy to Manaphy. Capture Energy, when you attach it from your hand to a Pokemon, allows you to get a basic Pokemon from your deck and put it onto your bench. So with that, I choose to grab Radiant Greninja, and then I use its ability to discard an energy from my hand and draw 2 cards. With Radiant Greninja, I find Buddy-Buddy Poffin, which allows me to get 2 basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less from my deck and put them onto my bench. I get Dunsparce, which is the basic for the Dunsparce, and Feebas, which will later evolve into Milotic. And I then pass my turn. So, on the other side, I also have Buddy-Buddy Poffin, and with that I grab Snom, which will evolve into Frosmoth, and Minun. Minun is one of the Pokemon that draw cards in this deck. It allows you to, once during your turn, if any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn, draw 2 cards. So, after that, I play yet another Poffin, which gets me Baltoy and another Jirachi. I then play Parallel City, which is the only stadium in this deck. It has 2 effects, depending on which side you play it. The effect on my side is not really relevant. The effect on the other side limits my opponent's bench size to 3. I wanted to include a stadium in this deck. I wasn't sure which, so I went with this disruptive option. And I then attach Focus Sash to Baltoy. Focus Sash, of course, prevents the fighting Pokemon this card is attached to from being one-shot by damage, and Baltoy happens to be a fighting type as well, just like the Legend, so I chose to put it there. And then I end my turn. Here I start my turn by evolving into the Dunsparce. Then I play Birdkeeper to get Manaphy out of the active spot and the Dunsparce into the active spot. Note that the Dunsparce has a high retreat cost, but it can just get out of the active spot using its ability. And with Birdkeeper, I also draw 3 cards. In particular, I find Milotic, so that is now online. I dump the stadium with Artisan, which allows me to get another Dunsparce. And then I'm ready to start drawing other cards with my abilities. I use the Dunsparce first, even though it was probably optimal to use Greninja first. So I draw 3 cards and shuffle the Dunsparce into my deck. I then promote the Dunsparce, which has free retreat, and notice that despite having changed my active Pokemon 2 times this turn, I still haven't retreated, so this is still an option for me. Then I use Greninja, discarding basic energy and drawing 2 cards. Luckily I didn't draw back into the Dunsparce pieces, so the sequencing didn't really matter in this situation. Then I bench another Dunsparce. I cannot find a Perrserker this turn, so I choose to attach Metal Energy to my active and attack using the double draw attack, which, like the name suggests, draws me 2 cards. Now, on this side of the board, I put Frosmoth into play by evolving Snom. I also used the Artisan to get a Floatzel GL into play. I wasn't sure whether to grab Floatzel because I also had other options, like, most importantly, leaving the bench spot open for a potential Lapras to get a supporter later on. But I chose to do that. Finally, I cannot use Minun's Pokepower because none of my Pokemon were knocked out. I cannot use Detour because I didn't play a supporter. So I just pass my turn. Next turn with Perrserker, I play Avery, which draws me 3 cards, and then I have to choose to discard some of my precious bench Pokemon on this side. I chose to discard Floatzel without much thought, since like it's still too early for Floatzel to matter in this game. For the second discard, it's a bit tricky. I chose to discard Minun in the end, because assuming my Jirachi gets knocked out, I will be able to grab Claydol with Final Wish, which is a better draw option than Minun, and I already have Baltoy in play, so I chose to do that. And also notice that my opponent just played a supporter, so they will not have Guzma to knock out my Baltoy. Then with Avery, I found a Luxury Ball, which finally gets me a Perrserker in play. I then use Greninja's ability to discard a special Metal Energy and draw 2 cards. I put the Dance Pass into play, drawing even more cards with its Runaway Draw ability. Then I put a Capture Energy onto Perrserker, which gets me another Perrserker, just in case. I also evoke the active into the Dance Pass. Then I play a Metal Saucer. Metal Saucer allows us to attach a Metal Energy card from our discard pile to one of our benched Metal Pokemon. Notice that it does not specify basic Metal Energy. And this special Metal Energy here says it provides Metal Energy without the clause specifying that it only provides that type of energy while it's attached to a Pokemon. So this energy counts as a Metal Energy even while in the discard pile. And so Metal Saucer is able to attach it to our Perrserker here. Then I use the active's Runaway Draw to draw some more cards. And I promote my Perrserker, which is ready to attack now. With Artazon, I grab Dance Pass. And then I attack with Treasure Rush, which does a lot of damage, 300 in this instance, which is plenty enough to knock out Jirachi. Now, Jirachi, like I mentioned, has the Final Wish Pokepower, with which I do not grab actually Claydol directly. I chose to grab Twins instead, and I will use Twins to grab the Claydol. Then Perrserker takes his prize card, and I promote the other Jirachi. Now, with Twins, I grab an Ultra Ball and Manaphy. Ultra Ball will allow me to discard Manaphy, which is not needed in this matchup, as well as Exeggcute, that has the Propagation ability, which allows it to return to my hand whenever, which helps with item cards which require you to discard cards from your hand. And I then use the Ultra Ball to get Claydol. Notice that a few of my Pokemon, of my important Pokemon, let's say, namely Minun and one of my 2 Jirachi, are in the discard pile. I do actually have recovery options in my list. Actually, my only recovery option for Pokemon is Ordinary Rod, and you will notice it is in the prize cards, so this is why I did not grab it with Twins. Before playing Claydol, I chose to get Stealthy Hood out of my hand. And then I play Powhand Extension. Powhand Extension is similar to a card which is in the standard format right now, which is Counter Catcher. It can only be played when you're behind on prize cards, and right now I have 6 prizes remaining, whereas Perrserker has 5. And it gives you a choice. You can either move an energy card attached to the defending Pokemon, so the opponent's active Pokemon, to another one of their Pokemon, or you can use it just as a Counter Catcher, gasting one of your opponent's Pokemon. In this instance, I choose the Counter Catcher effect, putting Milotic into the active spot. Milotic is the one with the biggest retreat cost, so it made the most sense. Then with my opponent's Artazon, I yet again grab Floatzel. And then finally I use Claydol's ability, or rather Claydol's Pokepower, which allows me to choose up to 2 cards from my hand and put them on the bottom of my deck. In this case it's just 1 card. And then I can fill up my hand to 6. I do not play the Buddy-Buddy Poffin because I want to play around Avery. So I end my turn by attacking with Detour, which again copies the supporter card I played during this turn, which happens to be Twins. So I grab 2 cards from my hand, one of which is Floatzel GL LV.X, which importantly, I do have Luxury Ball in my hand, which usually allows you to get any Pokemon from your deck, but it excludes Pokemon level X, so this is one of the few decks that actually plays one, so I have to grab it in another way. The choice to grab a Legend piece is a bit aggressive. I could have grabbed the Peonia, which would have allowed me to recover my Ordinary Rod from the prizes during the next turn. But instead I chose to go in the aggressive option, saying that if I draw the right pieces, I can get the Legend in play with all the energies, and maybe also a Focus Sash by next turn. So yeah, that was the choice that I made. Unfortunately, this aggressive strategy on the Legend mill side did not work, because on the other side I had Guzma, which allows me to Gast one of my opponent's Pokemon and also switch. So I chose to Gast Frosmoth, which is an essential piece to get the Legend into play, and I also get Perrserker back into the active spot. And then I attack for 280 damage. Actually, times 2, because Frosmoth is also weak to metal, so how much is it? 560? So yeah, Frosmoth is absolutely obliterated, and I draw a prize card. So here I promote Floatzel because I have the level X in hand, which is the free retreat. First thing I do is level up Floatzel. Notice, by the way, that to level up a Pokemon, it has to be in the active spot, so I grabbed this occasion while I had it. Then with Luxury Ball, I get Lapras to get back into the plan B of playing Peonia. Peonia allows me to put the 3 prize cards into my hand and then replace them with 3 cards from my hand. So with Peonia, I don't find Ordinary Rod right away. I find another bottom piece of the Legend, an Ultra Ball, and Water Energy. I choose to put the bottom piece back into the prizes because I figure while I have Floatzel in play, I only need 1 of those pieces. And then I choose to put Team Rocket's Handiwork into my prize cards, since I will not need it for the majority of this game, actually. Team Rocket's Handiwork allows you to flip 2 coins, and then for each heads you discard 2 cards from the top of the opponent's deck. And then finally I choose to put back 1 of the Water Energies, since I plan to play my Ordinary Rod fairly early on, so I will only need the 4 energies, and I already have 4 in deck plus 1 in hand, so I can afford to keep 1 in the prizes. I then play Artisan to get another Snom in play. Then I use Claydol's Poké Power to put down 2 cards at the bottom of my deck and draw 1 card. In particular, I find my ace spec, which is Dowsing Machine. It allows me to discard 2 cards from my hand, and then recover a trainer card from my discard pile into my hand. It says to discard 2 cards, but actually I can basically discard just 1 card, and the other one will be the Exeggcute. So I discard the Exeggcute, and it wins, because I have Versus Seeker in hand to recover it if I want to. And I choose to recover the Palm Hand extension, which I again use as a counter catcher, again targeting my Lotic. Then I retreat Floatzel into Jirachi, and I attack again with Detour, copying the effect of Peonia and allowing me to see my other 3 prize cards. So I finally find my Ordinary Rod. I also find another Floatzel GL LV.X and a Level Ball. Now the other Floatzel GL LV.X can immediately go into the prize cards. I then choose to put down the Ultra Ball. And finally I also put down the Buddy-Buddy Poffin, since at this point I do not have any Pokemon to recover with it. I will of course have them after I play my Ordinary Rod, but even if Artisan gets bumped, I can also get those Pokemon with Level Ball, so not a huge deal. Here I play Bird Keeper to switch my active and get Perrserker back online. It also draws me 3 cards. Then I chose to play the Field Blower to get rid of my Artisan, which is just helping the opponent in this scenario. I could have played the Field Blower like this earlier. I wanted to hold it to discard the Focus Sash attached to the Legend eventually. It probably was not correct to play it now. I should have played it either earlier or later, but alas, I played it now. And with Field Blower, I also can discard the Focus Sash attached to Claydol for what it's worth. Then I attach an energy to my Lotic, so I only have to attach another one if I want to retreat it in the future. And then I attack doing 320 damage. Again, Jirachi has its Poké Power, and with that I chose to grab another Level Ball, so those two Level Balls are basically doing the job that the Buddy-Buddy Poffin would have done, but better, because with one of them I can grab Frosmoth. So Jirachi is knocked out, with Perrserker I get a prize card, and I promote my free creator Floatzel. I then draw for turn, and I find Professor's Letter. First thing I do is play the Ordinary Rod, and with that I recover a Jirachi and a Minun. With my first Level Ball I grab Minun. It will be very clear in a bit why I grabbed Minun and not Jirachi. With the other Level Ball I grab Frosmoth, which immediately gets put into play. With the Versus Seeker I grab Twins, which allows me to get the other Legend piece that I was missing and the Focus Sash. So at this point I am committed to putting the Legend into play, which is again a bit aggressive, because with the Professor's Letter I can only grab 2 of the 4 energies that I need, which immediately get attached to the Legend using Frosmoth. And then I have to hope that from Minun and Claydol I can grab the other 2 energies, which is easier said than done. Notice, by the way, that in this situation I cannot use Claydol, because Claydol requires me to put at least one of the 2 cards from my hand to the bottom of my deck, so this is the reason why I grabbed Minun. So with Minun I can draw 2 cards. Lucky for me I also find a power hand extension, so here comes my Lotic in the active spot yet again. I choose to thin out the Level Ball by grabbing Jirachi, and then Claydol puts Jirachi on the bottom of my deck. I draw my 6 cards, and my gamble pays off. I find not a Professor's Letter, but directly 2 energies. So with Frosmoth I can get my Legend ready to attack. And I also found another power hand extension, which allows me to get rid of the energy that was attached to my Lotic by moving it to Dunsparce. Then I retreat Floatzel, and I'm ready to start milling with Mega Tidal Wave here. So I discard the top 5 cards from my opponent's deck. Then for each energy I discard in this way, this attack would do 30 damage to each of my opponent's bench Pokemon. My opponent happens to have Manaphy into play, so this is absolutely not relevant in this case. And it would have just done 30 damage because only 1 energy was discarded in this way, so not a big deal. Now, here I have a few options. I can play Birdkeeper to get my Perrserker back active. But if I do that, I will not be able to knock out the Legend, because it has a Focus Sash attached, which I have no way of removing because I already played my Field Blower. My other option is to remove the Focus Sash using Faba. There it is. So Faba allows me to remove the Focus Sash by putting it into the Lost Zone. Then I attach an energy to my Lotic, getting ready to retreat, and I pass. Here I find Professor's Letter, which I can use to thin my last water energy from the deck. I choose to attach it to Frosmoth, because why not? Just to get rid of it. Then with Claydol, I put down 2 cards from my hand and draw 5. Here I have a couple of options to play a supporter. One of them is Team Rocket's Handiwork, which I discussed earlier. The other one is Misfortune Sisters, which is the one I choose to play. It allows me to look at the top 5 cards of my opponent's deck and discard any items I find there. Of course, I did not find any item card here, so those cards just get shuffled back into my opponent's deck. I will mention the play I just did was actually an illegal play, because the effect of Misfortune Sisters is actually blocked by my Lotic's Dual ability. I will come back to this at the end of the video. But anyway, it was not a very consequential play, so whatever. And then I attacked again with Mega Tidal Wave, getting my opponent's deck down to 5 cards. Here on the Perrserker side, I can just retreat my Lotic this time, and I'm ready to swing with Perrserker, which gets me 2 prize cards, because the Legend here is worth 2 prize cards, as this rule says. But the Legend on the other side gets returned to the hand with all its attached cards because of Floatzel GL LV.X. So here, on the Legend side, I can just end the game. I put the Legend back into play, I use Frosmoth to get its energy back. And cherry on top, I also have the Focus Sash, even though it's clearly not needed, I'm about to win this game. I retreat Floatzel, and with Mega Tidal Wave, I get my opponent's deck back to 0, so I win by deck out. So, Kyogre Groudon LEGEND managed to take this game. It definitely came down to luck with those lucky draws at the end, and it also possibly came down to misplays on the Perrserker side, but nonetheless it won. You can still tell though that it is a very clunky deck, lots of combo pieces which take up deck space, to the point where even some usual suspects from mill lists did not make it into this particular deck. For example, I have no space for Curse Shovel or Trick Shovel or things like that. And even mill supporters, I only managed to play one during this whole game, so definitely a fun deck and not really a meta threat, but it's still fun to try to build decks using legend cards. A couple changes that could be made to this list are first the choice of the stadium. Like I said, I wanted to have a stadium that was disruptive, and Parallel City does that quite well, but there is also the option, for example, of Chaotic Swell, which additionally has the benefit that it more easily baits Faba or Field Blower out of your opponent's hand, so your Focus Sash is less likely to get removed later on in the game. The other possible change is the choice of A-Spec. Currently I have Dowsing Machine, which is a pretty popular choice for control and mill decks. However, since this deck is also heavy on setup, Amulet of Hope might also make sense. Amulet of Hope is a tool card that basically has the same effect as Jirachi's Pokémon Power, but times 3, because it allows you to get 3 cards from your deck. One obvious downside is that tools are easy to remove, so it's a bit risky to put Amulet of Hope into play, but then again, this also means that it can bait Field Blower and Faba just like a Chaotic Swell, so maybe it's worth it. As for Galarian Perrserker V, I'd say this deck worked well enough in this matchup. Its specialty is not single price matchups, but still it kinda worked. The one obvious flaw that this deck has is that it completely falls against Unfair Stamp. Notably, Hazeman published his video with the original Perrserker list that I modified just before Unfair Stamp came out, so it was not a problem that he had to deal with, whereas I do. There are of course a few cards that stop both players from playing A-Spec cards, most notably the Spiritomb from Legendary Treasures, but I do not believe they are worth including in this list. As promised, we're now going to be looking at the ruling about Milotic and Misfortune Sisters. First, let's read Milotic's Dewguard ability as it is written. Whenever your opponent plays a supporter card from their hand, prevent all effects of that card done to you or your hand. This text sounds simple, but what exactly counts as an effect done to you can be a bit complex. Let's now read the text on Misfortune Sisters. Look at the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck and discard any number of item cards you find there. Your opponent shuffles the other cards back into their deck. Notice that it says your opponent shuffles, and this is precisely the basis on which it was ruled that Dewguard stops the effect of Misfortune Sisters. Now, you see on screen an answer to a question I posted on the Ask the Rules Team forum, which is what I'm using as the source for this ruling. Notice that I also asked about the effect of another supporter card, namely Team Rocket's Handiwork. Let's read the text on that card. Flip 2 coins. For each heads, discard 2 cards from the top of your opponent's deck. On this card, there is nothing explicitly saying something like your opponent does this, so we cannot immediately say that it would be blocked by Dewguard. However, it is also not obvious whether discarding cards from the top of a player's deck counts as an effect done to that player. Indeed, to my knowledge, there is no ruling on the compendium on this matter, and even the answer I got on the forum was we'd want to check, so they don't know either. It has been 6.5 months since that response, and at least to my knowledge, they have not reached a conclusion. I then turned to look for answers in the Japanese TPC rulings. Do note that TPC rulings should be taken with a pinch of salt, because the rulings used in the Eternal format are those from TPCI, and there are some quirky cases in which they are different from those from TPC. It is very much possible that rulings about shuffling the deck would be different, considering that the subject that shuffles the deck is sometimes different between the Japanese and English wordings. In any case, among the TPC rulings related to Dewguard, I found nothing about shuffling the deck or about milling cards. So I do not have a definitive answer to give you about Team Rocket's Handiwork either. I still encourage you to read the rulings about Dewguard, because I think they're really interesting, and perhaps even surprising if you've never seen them before. So, with that being said, thanks for watching. If you have any comments or questions about the game or the list, feel free to comment below, and I'll see you next time.